My name is Madeline, and I am 29 years old. A few weeks ago, I married the love of my life in a small vineyard in Napa Valley, California. It was the most beautiful day of my life, and it almost got ruined by 3 people I did not invite. 3 people who 12 years ago looked me in the eye and said, "Don't come home, your sister doesn't want you there." To understand what happened at my wedding, you need to hear the story from the beginning. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is for you. Stay with me until the end. You will not believe what happened. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, in a small 3-bedroom house with a big maple tree in the backyard. My dad, Gary, worked as a plumber. He had rough hands and a quiet way about him, the kind of man who came home tired and sat in his recliner without saying much. My mum, Donna, worked as an administrative clerk at the local hospital. She was organized, practical, and always busy with something. We were not rich, but we had enough. Enough for a warm house, enough for groceries every week, enough for the basics. And for a while, when I was very little, I thought we had enough love to go around too. My sister Brooke came along 3 years after me. She was born with severe asthma. Before she turned 3, she had been hospitalized twice. I remember the second time because I was 5 years old, and I stayed with our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, for 3 days while my parents slept at the hospital. When they brought Brooke home, everything shifted. The air in our house changed. It was like Brooke became the center of gravity, and the rest of us just orbited around her. I understood it at first. I really did. She was little. She was sick. She needed more attention. I told myself that, and I believed it. So I became the easy child. I made my own bed before anyone asked. I packed my own lunch for school starting in 3rd grade. I did my homework without being told. I figured that if I was no trouble at all, it would free up space for my parents to take care of Brooke, and when things settled down, they would have time for me too. I waited for things to settle down. They never did. I tried so hard to be seen. In 5th grade, I brought home a report card with straight A's. I put it on the kitchen counter where Mum would see it. She glanced at it while stirring soup and said, "Good job, Maddie." Then she turned to Brooke and asked if she had taken her evening medication. In 7th grade, I won 2nd place in the school-wide writing competition. I carried that certificate home like it was made of gold. Dad looked at it for about 2 seconds, nodded, and went back to watching the game. But the memory that stays with me the most is from when I was 13. Our school was putting on a play, and I had been cast as the lead. I rehearsed for weeks. I knew every line by heart. My parents promised they would be there. On the night of the performance, I stood backstage, peeking through the curtain at the audience. I scanned the rows looking for my mom and dad. I found their seats. 2 empty chairs in the 4th row, right on the aisle. I kept looking at those chairs, thinking maybe they were just late. The lights dimmed. The play started. I walked on stage and delivered every single line, and those 2 chairs stayed empty the entire time. After the show, I borrowed a phone and called home. Mom answered. She said Brooke had a mild asthma flare-up, so they decided to stay home just in case. Her voice was casual, like she was telling me about the weather. I cried in the school bathroom. I washed my face with cold water, dried it with paper towels, and walked out to catch the late bus home alone. When I got there, I found Brooke sitting on the couch watching a reality show, eating buttered popcorn, looking perfectly fine. Not wheezing, not struggling to breathe. Just sitting there comfortable like nothing had happened. I walked past her without a word and went to my room. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall and thought about those 2 empty chairs. And something small inside me cracked that night. Not all the way, just a hairline fracture. But it was there. Looking back now, I realize I spent my entire childhood trying to be the perfect daughter. I thought that if I was good enough, smart enough, quiet enough, and caused no trouble at all, my parents would eventually notice me. What I did not understand was that the less I asked for, the more they assumed I did not need anything. My silence was not strength to them. It was permission to forget me. When I turned 16, the favoritism became impossible to ignore. It was no longer subtle or something I could explain away. It was right there out in the open, and nobody in my family seemed to think anything was wrong with it. My 16th birthday fell on a Saturday in March. I did not ask for a party. I did not ask for gifts. All I wanted was a family dinner. The 4 of us sitting together at the table, maybe with a cake from the bakery on 5th Street. That was it. But when I came downstairs that morning, Mum was on the phone scheduling Brooke's routine asthma checkup. She had booked it for that day, my birthday, at 3 in the afternoon. I said, "Mom, that is my birthday." She looked at me like I had interrupted something important and said, "I know, honey, we can do something next weekend." Next weekend came and went. Nothing happened. No dinner, no cake, no acknowledgement. It just disappeared like my birthday had never existed. Compare that to Brooke's 13th birthday the year before. Mum and Dad rented out the community pool, hired a DJ, invited 12 of Brooke's friends, and ordered a 3-tier cake with lavender frosting, because lavender was Brooke's favourite colour that month. Dad even took a half day off work, something he had never done for any of my birthdays. There are photos of that party still on Mom's Facebook page. Brooke grinning in a new swimsuit surrounded by balloons, looking like the happiest kid alive. A few months after my forgotten birthday, I applied for an after-school job at a coffee shop downtown called Morning Ground. I wanted to save up enough money to buy a used car so I would not have to depend on anyone for rides. I worked every day after school and every weekend for 4 months straight. Early mornings, late evenings, holidays. I saved $1,200 and I found a listing for an old Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it. It was not pretty, but it ran and it was almost mine. Then one evening, Dad sat me down at the kitchen table. He said the air conditioning unit in Brooke's bedroom had broken, and the doctor said warm, stagnant air was bad for her lungs. He needed to replace it, and he was short on cash. He asked if he could borrow my savings. He said he would pay me back. I gave him the money. Every dollar. Because he was my dad and he said he would pay it back, and I wanted to believe him. He never mentioned it again. Weeks later, I asked him about it. He looked at me like I was being unreasonable and said, "Family helps family, Maddie. Don't be selfish." I did not get the car. I walked to work and back for another 6 months. Around this same time, Brooke started changing. She was 14 and had figured out that she held a special position in our house. She started testing the limits of it. She would walk into my room without knocking and take whatever she wanted. My clothes, my books, my hair clips. One day I came home and found her wearing the bracelet my grandmother had given me before she passed away. It was the only thing I had from Grandma, and Brooke had just taken it from my dresser like it was nothing. I confronted her. I said, "That is mine. Grandma gave it to me." Brooke's face crumpled. She ran to Mom crying, saying I was being mean to her. Mom came to my room and said, "She is younger than you, Madeline. Just let her have it. You are supposed to be the bigger person." I never got the bracelet back. Then there was the debate tournament. Junior year, I joined the school debate team. I threw myself into it. Research practice rounds, late nights at the library building arguments. Our team made it to the state competition, and I won first place individually. First in the entire state. I brought the trophy home heavy and golden and engraved with my name. I was so proud I could barely breathe. Dad was on the couch watching a football game. I held the trophy out. He glanced up and said, "That's nice." Mom was in the kitchen chopping onions. She did not even look up. She said, "Put it in your room, honey." That same week, Brooke made the cheerleading squad. It was a tryout at school, not a state competition. Not a trophy, just making the squad. Mom and Dad bought her a brand new uniform, new sneakers, and a warm-up jacket with her name embroidered on the back. Dad drove her to practice every day that week, even though it was out of his way. And Mom posted a photo of Brooke in her cheerleading outfit on Facebook with the caption, "So proud of our girl." Our girl, singular, one girl, as if there was only one daughter in that house. I saw that photo on my phone, sitting alone in my room with my state championship trophy on my desk, collecting dust. And for the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I had been avoiding for years. Am I even part of this family? After that, I started pulling away. I spoke less at dinner. I spent more time at the library or at work. I came home only to sleep. I built an invisible wall around myself, not because I wanted to, but because every time I tried to step out from behind it, I got pushed back. So I stopped stepping out. I stopped reaching. And nobody noticed. The fall of my senior year changed everything. I was 17, and I had just received an early acceptance letter from Ohio State University with a partial scholarship. It was the biggest moment of my life up to that point. I had worked so hard for it. Every late night studying every extra credit assignment, every hour spent writing application essays in the school library while other kids were hanging out. All of it led to that letter. I held it in my hands on the walk home from the mailbox, and I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real warm, glowing hope. I thought maybe this is the thing that will finally make them see me. A scholarship, a future. something concrete and undeniable. I walked through the front door and found all three of them sitting at the kitchen table. Dad on one side, Mom on the other, Brooke in the middle. The air felt heavy. Something was off. Mom had that expression she wore when she had already made a decision, but wanted to dress it up as a conversation. Dad was staring at the table. Before I could say a word about my letter, Mom spoke. "Madeline, sit down. We need to talk." I sat. I still had the envelope in my hand. Mom explained that Brooke had been very stressed lately. Freshman year of high school was hard. Her asthma had been flaring up again, and Brooke had told them that she felt uncomfortable with me in the house. Brooke said I was judgmental and cold toward her. Brooke needed space to recover, to feel safe, to focus on her health. I looked at Brooke. She sat there with her eyes pointed down at the table. She did not speak. She did not defend me. She did not say this was a misunderstanding. She just sat there in silence, letting it happen. Dad cleared his throat and said, "Your mother and I have been talking, and we think it might be best if you stay somewhere else for a while, maybe with Aunt Patty." My chest tightened. I heard the words, but they did not make sense at first. They rattled around in my head like loose coins in an empty jar. "You are kicking me out," I said. Mom's face hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Madeline. We are not kicking you out. We are just saying don't come home for a while. Your sister doesn't want you there. Don't come home. Your sister doesn't want you there." I cannot describe what that felt like in a way that does it justice, but I will try. It was like someone reached into my chest and pulled all the air out of my lungs. Like the floor beneath me dissolved and I was falling, but there was nothing to grab onto. I felt hot and cold at the same time. My ears were ringing. I looked at my dad, the man who was supposed to protect me, and he could not even meet my eyes. I looked at my mom, who was already picking at a loose thread on the tablecloth, like she had moved on to the next task. And Brooke, my little sister, the one I had once carried on my back through the sprinklers in the backyard, she just sat there, still, quiet, small. I looked down at the acceptance letter in my hand. I folded it slowly and slipped it into my back pocket. Nobody asked me what it was. Nobody asked me anything at all. I walked upstairs to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed and looked around at the walls, the posters, the bookshelf, the window with the view of the maple tree. 17 years in this room, 17 years of trying. I picked up my phone and called Aunt Patty, my dad's older sister. She lived about 40 minutes away in a small town outside Springfield. She picked up on the second ring. I told her what happened. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Pack your things, honey. I will be there in an hour." I packed in silence. 2 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes. Everything I owned in this world fit into 5 containers. 17 years of a life, and that was all there was. When I carried the first box down the stairs, Brooke's bedroom door was closed. Music was playing loud enough to vibrate the hallway floor. Dad had gone out to the garage. Mum was in the kitchen with her back to me, running water over dishes in the sink. Nobody said goodbye. Aunt Patty arrived right on time. She helped me load everything into the back of her old Subaru without saying much. She just worked steady and calm, box by box, suitcase by suitcase. When we finished, I stood in the driveway and looked back at the house one last time. The light in Brooke's room was on. The kitchen window was still open. I could see the outline of Mom moving behind the curtain. I got in the car. Aunt Patty started the engine. I did not look back again. On the drive to her house, I did not cry. I sat in the passenger seat and stared out the window at the cornfields stretching flat and endless along the highway. The sky was pale orange, fading into grey. I thought about how long it would take my parents to call me. I wondered if it would be a day, maybe 2, before they realized what they had done and picked up the phone. The answer, as I would learn in the months that followed, was that they never called. Not once. Aunt Patty's house was nothing like the one I grew up in. It was small, just 2 bedrooms with a screened-in porch and a garden full of wildflowers out front. She had lived alone since her husband passed away 8 years earlier, and the house had a quiet, settled feeling to it, like everything inside had been chosen carefully and loved for a long time. She had a cat named Pepper, an old orange tabby who moved slow and slept in patches of sunlight on the living room rug. The first night I was there, Pepper climbed onto my bed and curled up against my legs. And that small, warm weight was the first thing that made me feel like maybe I would survive this. Aunt Patty was 53 years old and worked as a nurse at a family practice clinic in town. She was steady, patient, and direct. She did not talk around things the way my parents did. She said what she meant and meant what she said. And she did something no one in my family had ever done. She asked me questions and actually wanted to hear the answers. Every evening she cooked dinner. Nothing fancy. Chicken casserole, meatloaf, pasta with jarred sauce. We sat at her little kitchen table by the window and she would ask, "How was school today?" Or, "What are you reading right now?" Or, "Did anything make you laugh today?" Simple questions. The kind of questions that told me she was paying attention. For the first time in my life, I had an adult who made space for me at the table. Not because I earned it. Not because I proved I deserved it. Just because I existed. Just because I was there. But the wound from my parents was still fresh, and it bled at night when everything was quiet. I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and reach for my phone on the nightstand. I would check my messages, my missed calls, looking for something from mom or dad. Some sign that they missed me, that they regretted it, that they were coming for me. The screen was always the same. No new messages. About a month after I left, I saw it on Facebook. Mom had posted a photo of the 3 of them at a new Italian restaurant in town. Dad in a flannel shirt, Mom in a blouse. Brooke smiling in the middle. The caption read, "Family night. 3 people, 3 smiles," as if there had never been a 4th. I stared at that photo for a long time. I zoomed in on the background like maybe I would find some trace of sadness, some sign that my absence meant something. There was nothing. Just a normal family having a normal dinner, and I had been erased. On Thanksgiving, I sent Mom a text. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mum." She replied 2 days later. 2 words. "You too." No follow-up, no, "How are you?" No, "Where are you spending the holiday?" Just 2 words like I was an acquaintance she barely remembered. I tried once more. On Dad's birthday in January, I called him. He picked up. We talked for about 2 minutes. He told me the pipes in the basement had frozen and he had to fix them himself. I started telling him about my classes and he interrupted. "Brooke's calling me, gotta go." I heard Brooke laughing in the background before the line went dead. After that, I stopped reaching out. I put my phone in the drawer at night instead of on the nightstand. I stopped checking for messages. I let go of the rope I had been pulling on for 17 years and accepted that there was no one on the other end pulling back. In the middle of all this darkness, Aunt Patty was my anchor. One night in February, I sat at her kitchen table crying. Not dramatic crying, just quiet, steady tears that I could not make stop. She did not ask me to explain. She filled the kettle, made 2 cups of chamomile tea, set one in front of me, and sat down across the table. She let me cry for as long as I needed. Then, when the tears slowed down, she looked at me and said, "You didn't lose a family, Madeline. You just found out the one you had wasn't holding on to you. That's their loss, not yours." I graduated high school that spring, valedictorian, top of my class. I gave a speech about resilience in the gymnasium in front of 300 people. Aunt Patty sat in the front row and cried the whole time. She brought flowers and a card that said, "You did it, kid. I always knew you would." My parents did not attend. Brooke did not attend. I did not invite them, and I did not expect them to show up on their own. That chapter was closed. That fall, I packed up my 2 suitcases, took Pepper the cat because Aunt Patty said I would need the company, and drove to Columbus to start my freshman year at Ohio State. In my glove compartment was the acceptance letter still folded the same way I had folded it at that kitchen table a year earlier. The letter my family never asked about. The letter that had become a quiet symbol of everything I had accomplished in spite of them. I entered college with a fierce determination to build a life that no one could take away from me. But I also walked through those doors carrying a fear I had never spoken out loud. The fear that if even my own parents did not want me, then maybe nobody ever would. Maybe there was something fundamentally wrong with me that I could not see, but everyone else could. That fear lived in my chest like a second heartbeat, and it would take years before I learned how to quiet it down. College was the place where I rebuilt myself from the ground up, but it did not happen overnight. It was slow, messy, and sometimes painful, like setting a bone that had healed wrong and waiting for it to grow back straight. I majored in communications. I worked 3 part-time jobs to cover what my scholarship did not. Every morning at 5, I opened the campus coffee shop, pulling espresso shots, while half the city was still asleep. In the afternoons, I worked as a teaching assistant for an introductory writing course. At night, I wrote freelance articles for a local news website covering everything from city council meetings to restaurant openings. I was exhausted most of the time, but I was also free in a way I had never been before. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every decision I made was mine. No one was going to take any of it from me. My roommate freshman year was a girl named Janelle from Atlanta. She was loud, funny, opinionated, and completely unapologetic about all of it. She had a laugh that you could hear from the other end of the hallway, and she decorated our tiny dorm room with string lights and posters of old jazz musicians. She was the opposite of me in almost every way, and she became the closest friend I had ever had. It happened gradually. Janelle was not the kind of person who forced you to open up. She just created a space where it felt safe to. We would stay up late talking about classes, about boys, about our futures. One night in October, we were sitting on the floor of our dorm eating instant ramen out of mugs because we had no clean bowls. Janelle was telling me about her grandmother in Georgia, and then she stopped and looked at me and said, "You never talk about your family, Madeline, like ever." So I told her. I told her everything. The empty chairs at my school play, the stolen bracelet, the forgotten birthdays, the $1,200, the cheerleading post, the night they told me to leave. I talked for over an hour and Janelle sat there and listened without interrupting once. When I finished, she put her ramen down, scooted across the floor and hugged me. She held on tight and said, "Girl, you didn't deserve any of that, not 1 second of it." Nobody had ever said that to me before. Not in those exact words, not with that much conviction. And hearing it from someone who had no obligation to care about me, who was not family, who simply chose to sit on a dorm room floor and listen to my story and then tell me I deserved better, it cracked something open inside me. Not in a bad way, in the way that lets the light in. A few weeks later, Janelle walked me to the campus counseling center and waited outside while I had my first appointment with Dr. Ingram, a psychologist who specialized in family dynamics. That first session, I sat in a leather chair across from a woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, and I could not speak. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. She waited 10 minutes in complete silence, then smiled gently and said, "We have all the time you need." Over the next several months, I went to see Dr. Ingram every other week. Slowly, painfully, I began to untangle the knots that had been tightening inside me since childhood. She helped me understand that what my parents did was not a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of their limitations. They had a finite capacity for attention and love, and they gave all of it to Brooke, not because Brooke deserved it more, but because they had decided early on that Brooke was the one who needed it, and they never revisited that decision. I was collateral damage in a story they were telling themselves about being good parents. Dr. Ingram said something once that I carry with me to this day. She said, "You can grieve the parents you needed while accepting the parents you got. Those two things can exist at the same time." That sentence rewired something in my brain. I did not have to pretend it was okay. I did not have to forgive and forget and move on like nothing happened. But I also did not have to stay stuck in the anger forever. I could hold the grief in one hand and my future in the other and keep walking. During my sophomore year, I started writing about my experiences. My creative writing professor assigned a personal essay, and I wrote about growing up invisible in my own home. I wrote about the maple tree and the empty chairs, and the night I packed 5 containers and left without a goodbye. The professor read it aloud in class and asked my permission to submit it to the University Literary Journal. It was published the following month. I got messages from students I had never met, telling me they had lived through something similar. A girl named Priya told me her parents had favored her brother so openly that she moved out at 16. A guy named Derek said his mother had chosen his stepfather's children over him for years. I was not alone. I had never been alone. I just thought I was. By junior year, I had an internship at a communications firm in Columbus. I worked hard, impressed the right people, and was offered a part-time position that continued through my senior year. When I graduated with honors, I had a full-time job offer waiting for me. I had done it, every piece of it on my own. During those 4 years, my family reached out exactly 3 times. Brooke sent a text on Christmas when I was 21. It said, "Merry Christmas." No apology, no explanation, no warmth. Just 2 words that felt more like a formality than a connection. Mom called once when I was 22. She wanted to know if I had my own health insurance because she needed to remove me from the family plan. The call lasted 4 minutes. She did not ask where I was living. She did not ask how I was doing. She got the information she needed and hung up. Dad never reached out. Not once. Not a call, not a text, not even a comment on social media. It was as if the day I walked out the front door was the last time I existed in his mind. Each time one of these contacts happened, I felt something, but it was not the sharp pain it used to be. It was more like opening a familiar door and confirming that the room behind it was still empty, predictable, hollow, a quiet confirmation of what I already knew. I spent 4 years in college learning that I did not need my parents' approval to have value. I built a life with my own hands and with the love of people who actually chose to be in my corner. Aunt Patty called every Sunday like clockwork. Janelle was there for every bad day and every good one. My co-workers became friends. My professors became mentors. These people were my real family. But I will be honest. Even after all of that growth, all of that healing, there was still a part of me that had not moved on. Deep inside, underneath the confidence and the career and the friendships, there was still a 17-year-old girl standing at the top of the staircase, holding 2 suitcases, waiting for someone to say, stay. After college, I moved to San Francisco for a content management position at a technology company. The job was challenging, the city was beautiful, and for the first time I felt like I was living a life I had actually chosen rather than one I was surviving through. I rented a small apartment in the Sunset District with big windows that let in the fog every morning, and I finally had a space that was entirely my own. No one could tell me to leave it. I had a solid group of friends. Janelle had moved to Los Angeles, but we talked on the phone twice a week and visited each other whenever we could. Aunt Patty still called every Sunday evening, and I flew back to Ohio to see her at least 3 times a year. Pepper the cat, now old and slow, still slept at the foot of my bed every night. I was 26 when I met Nathan. It happened at a small independent bookstore in the Mission District during an author reading event. The place was packed, and I ended up standing next to a tall, quiet man with dark curly hair and glasses who was holding a copy of the same novel I had just finished reading. We started talking about the book, and the conversation never really stopped. Nathan was a software engineer, 30 years old, originally from Portland. He was calm in a way that felt intentional, like he had chosen stillness rather than simply defaulting to it. He listened carefully when people spoke. He remembered small details. On our 3rd date, he brought me a pastry from a bakery I had mentioned in passing 2 weeks earlier, and when I asked how he remembered, he shrugged and said, "You seemed excited about it." We took things slow. Coffee dates turned into long walks along the Embarcadero. Long walks turned into dinners he cooked at his apartment where he would play old vinyl records while he stirred sauces on the stove. He never pushed me to open up about my past. He just let me share things at my own pace, and when I finally told him the full story about my family on a rainy evening, sitting on his living room floor, he did not try to fix it, or minimize it, or tell me I should forgive and move on. He sat with me in it, and then he said something that broke through every wall I had left. "You don't have to earn this, Madeline. You just have to let me love you," I cried, not from sadness. From the overwhelming realization that someone could see all of me, the broken parts, the scared parts, the parts that still flinched when good things happened and still want to stay. We were together for 2 years before he proposed. He did it on Stinson Beach at sunset with the Pacific Ocean crashing behind us and the sky streaked with orange and pink. I said yes before he even finished the question. And then I cried again, because for the first time in my life, I believed that happiness was something I was allowed to keep. We planned a small wedding, 70 guests, a vineyard in Napa Valley with string lights over long wooden tables and wildflowers in mason jars. Aunt Patty would sit in the front row in the seat reserved for the mother of the bride because she had earned that place. Janelle would be my maid of honor. The guest list was filled with friends, co-workers, Nathan's family, and the people who had become my chosen family over the years. I did not invite my parents. I did not invite Brooke. Nathan asked me once gently if I wanted to. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds and said, "They told me not to come home. I am not going to invite them to mine." The morning of the wedding was perfect. Sunlight poured through the windows of the bridal suite at the vineyard. Janelle helped me pin white blossoms into my hair, making me turn this way and that until every flower was exactly right. Aunt Patty arrived carrying a small lace handkerchief, yellowed with age, that had belonged to my grandmother. She had carried it at her own wedding 50 years ago. Aunt Patty pressed it into my palm and said, "She would have been so proud of you, sweetheart." I held that handkerchief against my chest and breathed in the scent of old lace and lavender, and I felt my grandmother's presence in the room like a warm hand on my shoulder. The ceremony began in the early afternoon. I stepped out into the vineyard and the beauty of it stole my breath. Rows of grapevines stretched across gentle hills under a clear blue sky. Lavender lined both sides of the aisle. At the end of the path stood Nathan in a navy suit, smiling at me with a look so full of love it made everything else disappear. Aunt Patty walked me down the aisle. Her arm was steady, her chin was high, and I could feel her trembling slightly with emotion, but she never wavered. Every step we took together felt like a declaration. I chose this. I chose who walks beside me. We reached the altar. The officiant opened his book. The guests settled into their seats. The breeze carried the scent of lavender and warm earth. Everything was exactly as it should have been, and then I heard it. The crunch of gravel, a car door slamming, then another, then a third. I did not turn around at first. I kept my eyes on Nathan, but his expression changed. His gaze shifted over my shoulder and something tightened in his jaw. I turned. 3 figures were walking through the vineyard gate. My father Gary in a dark suit that looked newly bought. My mother Donna in a teal dress clutching a small purse, her hair freshly styled as if she had been invited. And Brooke in a floral sundress carrying a gift bag with tissue paper sticking out of the top. They walked toward the aisle like they belonged there, like they had always been part of this. Mom spoke first loud enough for the entire gathering to hear. "We are here for our daughter's wedding." The air went still. 70 people turned in their seats. Whispers rippled through the rows. Janelle stiffened beside me. Aunt Patty's hand tightened on the armrest of her chair. Nathan reached for my hand, and I let him hold it for a moment before I let go. Because this was mine to handle. I stepped down from the altar and walked toward them. My hands were not shaking. My voice was not cracking. 12 years of healing, of therapy, of building a life of learning to stand on my own, all of it had led to this moment, and I was ready. I stopped about 6 feet in front of them and looked at my mother, first, then my father, then Brooke. I took one breath, and then I spoke. "You are not invited. This is my wedding, my day, and my home. 12 years ago, you sat me down at a kitchen table and told me not to come home because my sister didn't want me there. You watched me pack 17 years of my life into 5 containers and walk out the front door, and not one of you said goodbye. Not one of you called after. Not one of you came looking. So no, you do not get to walk in here today and pretend you are always part of this. You are not. You chose not to be." Mom's eyes filled with tears. Her chin quivered. She said, "Madeline, we are your family." I held her gaze and said, "Family does not do what you did. Family does not throw away a 17-year-old girl and then show up 12 years later when she has something worth being part of. You did not come to my high school graduation. You did not call when I got into college. You did not ask where I lived or if I was safe or if I was happy. You removed me from your insurance and posted family photos without me. You do not get to skip the entire journey and show up at the destination." Dad tried to speak. His voice was low and rough. "We made mistakes, Madeline." I looked at him, and for the first time I did not feel the old ache. I felt clarity. I said, "Yes, you did, and I have done a lot of work to forgive you for that. But forgiveness does not mean you get a seat at this table. Forgiveness is something I did for myself, not for you. It does not erase what happened, and it does not open a door that you closed 12 years ago." Brooke stood behind them, silent, her eyes fixed on the ground. I looked at her. She looked small, smaller than I remembered. I said, "Brooke, I don't hate you. I never did. But today is not the day for us to have this conversation. If that day comes, it will be on my terms." I turned to the event coordinator, a calm woman named Terry, who had been standing nearby, and asked her to please escort my guests to the exit. Terry stepped forward, polite but firm, and guided the 3 of them back toward the gate. Mom cried as she walked away. Dad kept his head down his shoulders, heavy. Brooke paused at the gate and looked back at me one last time. There was something in her eyes, something I had never seen before. It might have been regret. I did not stay long enough to find out. I walked back to the altar. Nathan extended his hand. I took it and squeezed, and he squeezed back. The officiant asked if we were ready to continue. I nodded. Aunt Patty wiped her eyes quietly in the front row. Janelle pressed her bouquet against her chest and gave me a look that said, "I am so proud of you." I spoke my vows with a clear, steady voice. Not because I was unaffected, but because I had spent 12 years becoming the kind of woman who could stand in her truth without trembling. After the ceremony, a few guests asked me if I was all right. I told them I was more than all right. I told them that what they had witnessed was not a disruption. It was a closing. The final page of a chapter I had been writing my way out of since I was 17 years old. Many people asked in the days that followed, "Don't you regret it? Don't you wish you had let them stay?" And my answer was always the same: no. Not because I am cold, not because I do not care, but because I spent 12 years learning how to protect myself, and that was the first time I did it in front of the very people who taught me I was not worth protecting. The weeks after the wedding were quiet in the best possible way. Nathan and I spent our honeymoon driving up the coast, stopping at small towns along Highway 1, eating seafood at roadside stands, and sleeping in little bed and breakfasts with ocean views. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my mind was still. No noise, no waiting for a phone to ring, no bracing for disappointment. About 3 weeks after we got home, I found a letter in our mailbox. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was Brooks. I sat on the porch with the envelope in my hands for a long time before I opened it. Pepper sat next to me, blinking slowly in the afternoon light, unbothered as always. I opened it. The letter was 2 pages long. Brooks' handwriting was small and uneven, like she had written it slowly, choosing each word with effort. She wrote that she had been thinking about everything for a long time, longer than I probably realized. She said she knew, even as a teenager, that she was the favored child. She said she had not just accepted it passively. She had leaned into it. She had used it. When she wanted something, she knew that if she cried or complained about her asthma, or told Mom she felt unsafe, she would get whatever she asked for. She had weaponized their attention. She wrote that when she told our parents she did not want me in the house, it was not because I had done anything wrong. It was because I was a mirror. I reflected back everything she did not want to see about herself. My independence, my achievements, my quiet strength. They reminded her that she was not earning anything in her life. She was just taking. And rather than change, she had chosen to remove the mirror. The last paragraph said, "I was a kid who didn't know how to share our parents' love, so I took all of it. I know that does not fix anything. I know you might never want to talk to me again, and I would understand. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I am sorry." Oh, I see. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in the top drawer of my desk. I did not write back. I was not ready. Maybe someday I would be. But that day would come when I chose it, not when someone else decided it was time. My parents did not reach out after the wedding. I heard through Aunt Patty that Mom had been telling relatives her version of what happened, saying I had refused to let them attend my wedding, leaving out every piece of context that mattered. She did not mention the 12 years of silence. She did not mention the night they told me to leave. She painted herself as the victim, and I was not surprised. People who hurt you rarely tell the story the way it actually happened. I continued therapy. I wrote in my journal every morning before work, sometimes just a few lines, sometimes pages. I started a blog where I shared pieces of my story, not the whole thing, just fragments, moments, lessons I had learned. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people wrote to me saying they had lived through something similar. Parents who chose one child over another, siblings who were cast aside, families that looked whole from the outside, but were fractured beyond repair on the inside. I was part of a much larger story, and telling my piece of it helped other people feel less alone in theirs. Nathan and I settled into married life. It was not perfect because nothing real ever is, but it was full. He still cooked dinner most nights, still played vinyl records in the kitchen, still asked me, "What do you need today?" instead of assuming he already knew. He understood that my past had shaped me in ways that sometimes surfaced without warning. On nights when I got quiet, he did not push. He just sat beside me and waited. And that kind of patience, that willingness to be present, without demanding an explanation, it healed me in ways that no amount of therapy or journaling could. Aunt Patty visited us once a month. She would arrive with a homemade apple pie and stories about her garden. She had started growing sunflowers that year, tall and golden, and she would show me photos on her phone with the same pride my mother should have shown for my trophies and my report cards and my scholarship letter. Aunt Patty never missed a thing. She remembered every milestone, every anniversary, every small victory. She was the mother I chose, and she chose me right back. As for Brooke, her letter stayed in my desk drawer. I did not throw it away. I did not burn it. Some nights I thought about it. I thought about writing back. I thought about what I would say if we ever sat face to face again. but I was not there yet, and I had learned to trust my own timing. Healing does not follow anyone else's schedule. If the day comes when I'm ready to open that door, it will be because I decided to not, because guilt or obligation pushed me through it. Through everything I have been through, I learned 3 things that I carry with me every single day. The first is that family is not just blood. Family is the people who choose to show up for you, who see you without being asked to look, who love you without conditions or scorecards. Aunt Patty, Janelle, Nathan, my friends, my colleagues. They are my family. They earned that title not by birth but by presence. The second is that forgiveness is not a door you open for someone else. It is a window you open for yourself. I forgave my parents because carrying that anger was poisoning me, not them. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It does not mean access. It does not mean pretending the wound was never there. You can forgive someone and still choose to keep them at a distance. Those 2 things are not contradictions. They are wisdom. The third is that you do not need to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. I spent my entire childhood performing for an audience that was not watching. The moment I stopped performing and started living for myself, everything changed. Your value does not depend on someone else's willingness to acknowledge it. It just exists. It was always there. Sometimes on quiet evenings when Nathan has fallen asleep and the apartment is still, I sit on the porch and look out at the San Francisco sky. The fog rolls in low and soft, and the city lights glow through it like distant stars. And in those moments, I think about the little house in Dayton, the maple tree, the empty chairs, the girl who packed her life into 5 containers and walked out the door without anyone saying goodbye. If I could talk to that girl, I would sit beside her on those stairs and I would say, "You are going to be okay." Not because someone comes back for you, but because you learn to walk forward on your own. And the life you build will be bigger and warmer and more full of love than anything you are leaving behind. And she did walk forward. And she is okay. More than okay. Thank you for staying with me through this whole story. It was not an easy one to tell, but I believe it was worth telling. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you love, even when it broke your heart to do it? Drop your answer in the comments. I would love to hear your story. If this video touched you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel, so you do not miss the next story. Wishing you peace, strength, and the courage to always choose yourself when it matters most. Take care of your heart. It is the only one you have got.